Hello everybody and welcome to another clean mesh tutorial. Alright. And as you can see, I am out mobile on the new laptop. I'm very happy with it. The NVIDIA GeForce RTX. This thing absolutely rocks. So I'm going to do a short tutorial. I did happen to find a better way to do a little bit of a scene pop-up, but the thing I've been doing, just so everybody knows, is I've been studying the actual Blender manual for a week solid, and come to find out there's a lot of techniques that I don't really see people using, and there's some node trees that people are not benefiting from. So we'll start from the ground up, but the first thing I'll do is kind of go over the actual settings, like for the render. So if I was to go in to the denoiser for the actual render, I would pop down right here, and normally open image denoise is selected, and I found that that one is actually insanely slow. And so I can use the optics, and then if I go up to the edit and preferences, I can take advantage of the optics here with the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060. And the laptop puts me mobile, and so don't let anybody tell you you can't render real time, and I mean like lightning fast on a laptop, as I'm putting out entire galaxy node trees with just ease. I mean, distributed points on faces, sure, and it's a little easier because they're points, but it's good. So I highly recommend this this type of laptop. And let's see if I can minimize and show you. Yeah, the ROG Zephyrus, the M16, it is a pretty incredible device. So on to the tutorial, and procedurally what we're going to do is kind of create a glass and a backdrop and some decent lighting for it, and just some of the techniques that I found. And then one of my absolute favorite things would be the like composite plastic, the clear composite material that I came up with for the Suzanne. And so that one was pretty fun. Let's see, go into geometry nodes for this, and I'll just show you what I did real quick. This is really simple to achieve the look. I just did the group output, forget the normals. I did extrude, then I put a split edges, and then I just put the top extrusion to selection with a set shade smooth. And then from there, in the shading tab, it doesn't even get too complex there either. So I just did a material output with a emission, a translucent, glass, and I'll just leave this here. You can copy this. This isn't part of the tutorial, but I just want to kind of show you how to achieve that. And then with the texture coordinate on displacement for reflection to get what I got. Alright, so back to the layout, and I'm just going to select a new general 3D. I'm not going to save that. I'll select everything and delete it because I really don't want any of that stuff in there. And I'm just going to drop in a mesh plane. I'll scale it just a little bit, don't need it too big. And with the cursor at world origin, I'll just drop in a circle. And so from here, I can jump into the edit mode and extrude that up, and then keep that on the Z. And I'll just scale it out a little bit because this would be one of those very basic cups. And just for now, I'm going to hide the plane so I can get underneath my model. And with 2, which is edge select, I'll shift alt, and let me see here. Does anybody that's doing tutorials ever remember to have their screencast keys on, and can you even see them? Alright, I want to scale that down just a little bit, and I'll just do a fill on that. I don't need any geometry down there. So this looks okay. I think I'll just G and grab and kind of bring that up a little bit more. Now from here, I like the loop tools on this one. Let me see if I can move my camera. Oh, there we go. I've got the hotkey so I can turn it off. Okay, as you can see the screencast keys now. That doesn't really help, but let's keep going. Alright, so with this selected, I can just hit W and bring up loop tools. And if you don't have that enabled, you can just go into Edit, Preferences, and Add-ons and type in loop. And then tick that off, and all you have to do is hit X. You never have to save anything. So now I will bring up loop tools, and okay, actually forget loop tools for now. That's very useful later. Right now, I'm just going to Control R, add in a loop cut, and kind of bring that up to the lip. And what happens is you'll have your little drop down box pop up right over my face, and from here you can increase the number of cuts as you wish. And I think I'll just add 3 or 4 here, and then I'll come down to the bottom, and you could roll the mouse wheel up just the same and add your loop cuts there as well. And I just want to, with edge select, kind of change how this looks a little bit, and kind of scale some of these in. And I'll scale this one in a little bit. It doesn't have to necessarily be uniform. And I want there to be a separation here and at the bottom. So I'm actually going to put another loop cut in. Actually, I want to move that one. So I'll just G to grab and Z, and I'll bring it down. Right about there. That looks good. Alright, now I can bring my wonderful face back into this. So what we want to do is Alt-H, bring back the plane, and we'll go back into object mode. So I'll scale this up a little bit more, and I want to find front facing. So I'll pull up front, and now this is my back. I'm going to jump into edit mode with 2 selected, and this actual loop back here. And I will just extrude this up on the Z. Let me just zoom out so you can see a little better. And yes, I did see Blender Guru do the background like this. It was one of the best things I'd ever seen, and come to find out I had been doing it the hard way the whole time. So we all learn. And so right here and here and here, these are just my like simulated finger holds for the cup, if you will. And so making sure I'm in object mode, I'll just shade this smooth for now, so that looks a little bit better. And I'll bring up my end panel, my annotations, and go ahead and remove those because those are in the way. So now for the more fun part, we're going to get into adding the shader to this. And yeah, I'm at a dealership right now getting my car worked on, just regular service. So yeah, there's a little bit of background noise. You'll just have to excuse that because I'm just having some fun here doing a tutorial mobile. All right, so what I want to do now is I will bring up the shading tab for materials, and I'm just going to bump over to cycles and set this up. So I want it on cycles, I want it denoised in the viewport, and I'm just going to take a moment and set this up and make sure I'm on my optics. Max samples could be something like 200. They don't have to be too big. If you've got a slower machine, you can do less. And I'm on GPU compute, and I can bring the viewport samples down to something kind of reasonable, like 20. You could definitely do more, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to be super fast. I'll change this to optics, and since this is a new setup, I'm just gonna check my preferences and make sure I'm still good. Looks good. All right, so now I want to add All right, video cut off. So let's continue. I want to add in just a little bit of lighting, and for that I want to get rid of this window. What I want to do now is get a nice top view, and so I'm going to put some lighting like maybe in this area, whatever I can do to bring this up. So I'm going to start with a point. Here, let's get my face out of the way for a few minutes. I'll just join that. There we go. The mouse is trying not to work. So I'll pick a spotlight for here, and I'll Shift D and make another one here, and then I'll probably put 2 back here. We'll see how it looks. I don't want, actually I wanted those point lights, so I'm going to change that. All right. Know how that got in there, so Shift D. There we go. And I may add one directly behind there, but I don't want anything like glaring through my glass, and of course it's not glass yet, so G, and let's see, I'm just gonna go ahead and Shift select all my lights. Actually, let's do something easier. I'm just going to create a new collection. I'll call it lights, hit enter. I'll take all of my point lights and dump them in here. So now if I'm not selected, I can just come in here and say select. Alright, there we go. That wasn't in the actual collection, so that wasn't working. So now if I select objects, I can select all 5 lights, hit G and Z and bring them up. It just gives you a little bit cleaner control. So if you wanted to say pull one light out of the render and or the scene, then you can just do that. And let's go over to the light source and bring it up a little bit here. I think I'm going to work right to left this time. Gonna like that. Hey, I'm back. Alright, and then I'll bring this one up to say like 25, just to give the shadow a little bit more control to the back. It's kind of what I want. And G and Z to bring this one up. Maybe that softens it a little bit. And I'll turn this light into an area, and then I will diffuse that a little bit and turn it up to say 50, and that's starting to look kind of cool. So let's bring this one up to 50 as well, and G and Y kind of bring it. See how it's up against the backdrop too much? I don't want all that light shining on there, so I'll turn this one into a spot. I'll scale it up and bring my target directly here. Maybe turn this one up to 100. Now I've got a nice shadow across the top of the cup. And this light does matter a lot, so I'm actually going to hide these lights and see what this one's actually doing. And in order to see that just a little better, let's see, where is that? All the way down to color management. I'll go to from filmic to false color. And you see the light pattern here. You probably can't see it too good. There's not a lot of light there. So I'm just going to up that a little bit. There we go. Now you can see I've got just a little bit of the light coming across here, and it kind of cuts and stops at the shadow, and that's what I want. So now I can go set this back to filmic, which is where you will want to leave this. Alt H to unhide everything, and then as Blender Guru's wonderful tutorial suggests, and I still don't have enough light in the scene, so real quick we'll just turn this light up to something like 500, not 50. Alright, so that's a little bit better. Let's bring the spot up as well to like 150. Getting a little better. So with the backdrop selected, just come over to your modifiers and let's add a bevel. So what you are looking to do, and let's kind of go back to the layout so you can see everything a little bit better. What we're trying to do is cut this line out So I'm going to go over to camera, and I deleted my camera, so I got to pop a camera in the scene real quick. Alright, so now we've got our camera, and I'm going to align active camera to view, and you can tap G to kind of move this thing around a little bit, and don't worry about any of the other stuff outside of the camera. It won't be picked up in the render. And another wonderful thing to take into account is the square inverse law, which is going to say that the distance from your light, and I don't have the exact definition, is going to be, there's going to be a light fall off that's 4 times greater than the actual distance from it. So it absolutely matters where your light is. So as I get just a little bit closer to the model, you can see that the light pickup is a lot better. And I still want that shadow kind of point that way, and I will soften that up a little bit too, but let's just jump up to like 1,000 here, and let's bring the back up to something like 100. That kind of cuts into the backdrop a little bit, so I don't want that, so I will actually just move that off a little bit, see if I can add a little bit more side light. And this one doesn't seem to be doing too much, so I'm going to switch it to an area light. So let's bring this one up to say 500. There we go, that's looking a little bit better. And now I'll realign my view here. And I'll select the camera, and I'm going to bring that out just a little bit. So instead of 36 millimeters, I'm going to change the focal length here. And just a touch more. That's pretty good. Alright, so now we got a little bit of light in our scene. Let's go over to the shading tab. And with the cup selected, I'm just going to add a new material. And I'm going to get rid of the principal BSDF, and I'm going to put add shader. And as usual, Blender has turned our model black. So now, and I just wanted to pull up the shader tab so you can see it get built as we're doing it. Now I want to put in a glass BSDF, and it's going to just connect all that for us, and make sure your roughness is at 0. Now the index of refraction is super important. I've got a tutorial actually on lighting, but I'll just tell you right now, 0.8 is where you're going to want that, and the period is actually my camera button, so it came back on. Just might as well leave that for now unless it gets in the way. So that actually makes crystal clear glass, and we'll get to that point. So let's put in Suzanne, and we'll scale her down a little bit so you can get like an idea of how this actually looks. And the glass will take on a better look and better clarity as we go. We haven't even put the transparent on yet, but if you go ahead and bring this up to like where Blender defaults it, and you've ever fought with trying to get your glass clear even with the glass BSDF, it is not. I went through the Blender manual in lighting almost in entirety, and like the biggest thing that I found actually was that if you change the IOR down to 0.8, no higher, no lower, then you can actually see through, and the light transmission is perfect for glass. If you go to 1, it's perfectly clear, and you don't want that. You want some refraction, just a little bit of refraction in there. So if you go back down to 0.8, you can see the Suzanne perfectly. Let me see if I can scale her down a little bit. It's bugging me that the ears are potentially pushing out of the glass. Oh no, they're not. That's just the reflection of the loop cut. So you can see as I bring it up and down, it's pretty cool. Alright, continuing on, get the glass reselected, back to materials. And now I have to select another shader, and for that I'm going to go with a transparent BSDF, and that will actually allow a lot more light transmission. So now you'll find that you have to actually go in and start adjusting your scene lighting. So I've got this at 1,000. That's not going to work anymore. and so I have to bring. All right, and the next thing we're going to work on is going to be the maximum node. Tell you, try to keep these videos at 10 minutes. Number one, because my software shuts off at 10 minutes. I got to get a different software. I can't wait. I got the computer. Now I got to get the better software. So the maximum node, which is simply a math node. It's a basics, not vector math. It's a basic math node with maximum attached. And now, I don't know if you've ever used maximum or not, but what you'll see what this does in just a minute. Let's pull up the rendered view of this funky monkey that we got. I'm gonna hide my camera, it's in my way. Is going to be light path. I don't know if you've used light path or you're familiar with lighting, but this is one of the suggested node trees in the manual. So we will connect all of this and the transparent BSDF and the add shader. I may switch to a mix shader. That way I can add a little bit more to it and change it. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that actually. So I'm going to connect this shader here, and then let's connect the factor, and then remove this and bring it down and replace that. And now we've got something a little bit different. All right, so we will take is shadow ray and plug that in here. Come back, rendered view. And then I will take is reflection ray and plug that in. And that's starting to look very clear. So there's a lot you can still do with this. I'm gonna get rid of that. Let's see, from here you can kind of build on this, and that glass is reflecting just right. It's the Blender version. It's the Blender layout in the instructions, like in the depths, the bowels of the manual. I'm gonna drop in a displacement, and what we can do is we can plug in a noise texture. If you wanted to change this up a little bit like I did, just so you have the option, let me get rid of my face so you can see everything. And you can see just the top part of the glass here. So what you'd want to do is take your factor into the height of the actual displacement. And I'm getting, ever since I learned how to do the reroute, I can't take it anymore. I have to have things clean where you can see everything and how it's plugged in. I like it nice and neat, uniform. And you can kind of play around with this setup and do whatever you want. So if you were to come over here, and I'm gonna lock, I'm getting kind of tired of it, so I'm gonna lock the camera to view. That way I can just kind of move around and not have to keep switching back to the camera. What I could do is actually jump back into solid view, pull up the materials, add a new material, and let's just call this one a glass BSDF, and I'll leave the roughness on it, and maybe even make it like a little slight blue. Alright, so now what I want to do is press 3 for face select up here, and I'm just going to select the top rim only. And then with that material selected, I will assign it and then jump back into object mode, and you can see you've got that nice blue rim on top. And like I said, I was going to do the same thing for the bottom. I believe I left a loop cut down here as well. In order to get that loop cut selected, you just get the, how do I say this? Don't take this line because it takes the top to bottom, it goes vertical. So if you grab this line, it'll horizontally grab all of the faces, and then if you feel like it, you can take this material and assign that, or you can just make a new material. And now you actually get a little follow-up from the bottom of the glass, and it looks really nice. And the light refraction and the is shadow ray and the is shadow, let's see, grab this material. The is shadow ray and the is reflection ray are going to help kind of produce that. and then if you get your lighting looking pretty good. So now what I can actually do is just drop in an empty, and let's grab the camera only. Make sure the camera is not hidden. It's always hidden. I always hide it. And I will parent it. Here, let's try to get this just right. I will parent it to my empty. Alright, so Control P, parent the object. So now if I take the empty and rotate, it's going to rotate the camera, which is a bit of a static move. I really like that. So what I'll do is I'll actually, I don't have to scale this thing up too much. I just don't want the edges looking crazy. So I'm just going to scale it a little bit. I'll grab the the empty access point that I've got, and let's pull up the timeline. If you don't already have that, you can just do a horizontal split, come in here and pull up timeline. So with frame 1, and I'm just going to do like 75 frames. That's good enough, and I'm only animating the empty. So on frame 1, I'll just insert a location rotation scale where it's at, and then I'll go to 75, and I'll rotate this on the Z a little bit like that, and then I will also rotate it on like the X axis, and then I will even zoom in just a touch. And now I will insert another location rotation scale and play that back. And now, other than the lighting, that looks really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and pause that. And now that I don't need that bottom screen, let's increase the lighting because we changed a lot of things. So now we need to get it to light. You could get a Pro Light Studio like Blender Guru has. I'm going for that because it actually sets you up. I'm going to put 1000 on my crossing light, and I'm going to come out here. That's only at 61 watts, that's not enough, so 300, and it really cut my shadow off, so I may just bring this one up to 700, and I want that shadow to be somewhat soft. And what's actually happening here, and I'm not gonna work on this right now, but the transmission on the glass is so nice that all the light is going through it, and it's just catching the monkey, which is inside, and we could turn that particular node off. I can grab the noise texture and just tap M to mute that. And if there's a good point, if you don't have this enabled, this would be like the last part of my lesson next to rendering it. You can go into your edit, go into your preferences, and on the add-ons you would type in, okay, brain totally stopped. We're going to type in node, and if you don't have node arrange, node presets, and node wrangler, then you won't be able to move around and do those things. Like, let's see, if I grab these two nodes, or rather if I just box select so you can see what I'm doing, and I scale them, I can move them, rotate them, I can hit Control right click and sever this connection or reconnect it. I can M to mute this because of all the presets in the node wrangler, or I can literally come in here and just take this displace, and I can Control X. Actually, it's not a good example. Let's see. If I Control X here, it reconnects everything automatically for me. And I'll just Control Z back because I do want that there, but I'm going to mute the noise texture because I still want to see the Suzanne in there. And like I said, you can do this any way that you wish. And once again, under color management, be under filmic, and high contrast adds a lot to your scene, and I am forever at 0.5. There goes my point again, that's my camera. I'm at 0.5 forever on my exposure, and then you could go back to false color and see where your light intensity is, and there's a lot, but it's right where I want it. I do have a little too much light on my backdrop, but that's okay. So I'm going to go back to Filmic, and I don't think I ever, no, I didn't do it. I did not increase it. So real quick point, add maybe 2 bevels to this thing, and then you can mess with the offset. All right, one thing I actually messed up on, didn't tell you, is that if you don't make this plane with vertex select, you're not going to bevel it. At least I was having trouble with that. I did not have trouble with it the first time I tried it, but I am now. So just deleting that, and then with the cursor at world origin, real quick, you just drop in another plane, scale it up just a touch, jump into edit mode, make sure you press 1 and you're on vertex select, and you can shift alt and then extrude Z that up. And now if you jump back into object mode, it doesn't even matter. You put the bevel in, you can see that it just started the bevel, and I'll show you. Let's get the camera view again, and that's just terrible, so I got to fix the camera view, back out a little bit. Looks good. Now I'm just going to kind of scale this on the X just a little bit, don't have to do too much, this way there's not much being rendered. And now you can see that line there. So I go back over to the segments, and if I add 1 or 2 segments and then maybe offset it just a little bit and shade. All right, so one thing to consider, and that is, I didn't say it, but I'll go ahead and just kind of delete this. One thing you really need to do, and I'm just going to drop the plane back in here and kind of scale that up. If I didn't tell you, when you jump into edit mode, you need to be on vertex select. And then what you got to do is shift alt, then extrude Z up. Then it doesn't matter where you add the modifier, it's still going to be active, and you can just put a bevel in there, and you notice what happened there. So if we go to the viewport camera and see what we've got, we can scale this on the X just to get it inside the camera space a little bit better, because I believe that's actually still animated. So from here you could take the bevel, and I wouldn't add more than 2, maybe 3 segments, and then your offset is going to be a big deal, and then just shade it smooth, and you'll see the majority of that is now gone. You do have a little shadow there, so you kind of play around with the angle, and right about there my angle's completely gone, so it looks like an infinite shot with the light hitting it. I don't have a whole lot of shadow there, so I would actually go to the object properties and go under shading, because I'm in version 3.2, and I would tell this to receive shadow caustics. And just keep in mind you can only do up to 4 bounces, period. And so I'll have this cast shadow caustics, and then I'll turn the caustics on for the light, and then believe it or not, you have to do it for the world properties as well, I believe. Let's see where that's at. Shadow caustics there as well, and now you've got the caustics behind it. Looks really nice. You can clean that up a little bit more, and then I would just do a quick render for the end of this video, and I think everything is where I want it. So I'll go ahead and just render this out real quick. Alright, that was actually about 7 seconds, and that is all I'm going to do. There's, if you go on my YouTube and you like and subscribe, you will see I have a plethora of other videos, tutorials. I've got one actually on an iPhone, so you can go through that and kind of sharpen up your skills a little bit. I've got some on some short animations as well, and then I have longer tutorials on Udemy. So like, smash that subscribe button, and stay with it, and now you know the Blender manual version on making perfectly clear glass, and thank you for watching.